Hello everyone, this is Billy Saha. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm an associate professor of English at Jagannath University here. I started applied linguistics and English language teaching at the University of Dhaka and at the University of Toronto. As you know, my today's presentation topic is sources of online language teaching boredom, exploring teachers' voices. So usually students' boredom in online language learning has been concentrated in the research and teachers' voices are little hard. So I started this research. And to introduce my research, I will just focus on some recent research findings that supports the purposes of the research. And as we see, technology-based online education has been questioned, although it allows more communications and exchanges with several limitations compared to in-person pedagogies. And limited opportunities of socio-emotional immersion into the Zoom or Google Meet class environment are some of them, as the researchers report. Also, the common emotions involved in online education include teaching learning boredom, cost anxiety, scarce gadgets on the internet, assessment reactions, system adjustment, etc. And these raise concerns about the recorded research and effort addressing learner psychological well-being. So that's a very crucial part. How do teacher learners feel and what do they undergo during this emergency education process? So the learning process should be supported by consciousness, absorptions, engagement, sense of presence, control, interaction, and etc. The teacher or student boredom is a negative emotion that is potential enough to stop or delay learning. So online learners' feelings of disconnection, social isolation, distractions, boredom, and lack of control can affect their ability to attain the state of flow, presence, and social involvement. So the research actually focuses on online learner boredom and their attitudes towards the negative emotions involving in learning or affecting the learning. And that recent theories that talk about the emotions involved in online learning on the part of student and teacher. So they say the online classes often involve inadequate linkage between learner negative and positive emotions. So more research is needed. And learners experience more disparity than boredom while comprehending a complex topic, although learner boredom is high while being taught than while they are working on their own. So boredom impacts learner attention and engagement in the class lectures. Just when they are passive, they are more bored. And my students also say that. So some students are still not accustomed to learning online and are bored learning from home. And so teachers, varied teaching techniques can serve both parties in online classes. So it can address both teachers' boredom and learners' boredom at the same time. And teachers' attitudes towards virtual English language classes are generally impacted by the perceived challenges, including student-instructor technology skills, aspirations, technical assistance needs, experiences, willingness, institutional objectives, approaches, etc. Whenever the teacher is using the internet frequently and switching to one material from another and switching from one strategy to another strategy, definitely they feel more engaged and have a varieties of activities, and the attention gets back inside the classroom. So why did I pick this research? Although I stated at the beginning, but still, I found teachers' emotion in teaching a little known worldwide and have been locally investigated by none. Although teachers' preparation regarding online teaching and ability was examined, but their boredom or their negative emotions that might affect their teaching performances online was not investigated. So examining teachers' views about the learners' participatory functions in reducing monotony is crucial, and no research has so far investigated teachers' boredom. Therefore, this research addresses the sources and solutions of teachers' boredom during online language classes via Zoom applications or Google Meet. And my research investigates the influences of boredom on the language instructors and their performances, and also analyzes teacher perspectives about the students' learning aptitudes and activities in the online language classrooms. So the research questions include, do Bangladeshi English language teachers suffer from any negative emotions in teaching online, and what are the sources of this online language teachers boredom, and how does teachers boredom affect the online teaching pedagogies. So the methodology that I used for the research was a qualitative framework, and data were elicited about teacher perceptions using semi-structured interviews, and those are online and was recorded to analyze later. And the participants include 9 English language teachers working in both rural and urban areas at schools and universities. And I analyzed data thematically using content analysis. So to look at the findings, we see Bangladeshi English language teachers generally suffer from boredom sometimes during online classes. When or then, now and then, and they are bored either at the beginning or at the end or in the middle. So which mainly creates frustration and annoyance with them. And the respondents report several specific reasons, often involving contextual and student factors. And I categorized the reasons from different appointed by the different teachers and as the data were surfacing. So the first reason shows students in low attendance. The primary sources of teachers' boredom are students' low presence and fake attendance on the screen. One of the teacher respondents said, yes, I feel bored to take a class consisting of fewer number of students because only 1 or 2 or 3 regular and mindful learners always attend and respond to teaching. Unexpected low student attendance makes the class monotonous and I feel extremely hopeless. It is also true that the students join the class only for the attendance marks and are often away from the screen while showing presence. On the other hand, junior school English teachers instead feel little boredom, except during the waiting time and for low student attendance. However, students' non-responsiveness is always exasperating. Rural teachers experience a similar state of boredom in the Google Meet classes. So one of them said, sometimes I'm bored too. For instance, I have been waiting, but none of my students is joining, or at the moment when I have been talking for a long and but not receiving any feedback. So the second reason of the teacher's boredom shows irresponsiveness and delayed responses. Online teachers need even more frequent responses from the learners than in the face-to-face classroom, since all are apart. And I need that. But students' little responsiveness and delayed responses create frustration in the teachers struggling to make the invisible and physically distant student learn, since they keep their camera closed and you cannot see them. You don't know whom you are teaching, if there are any students behind the screen. So when they need feedback most and expect students' assurance about the teaching efficacy, learners remain silent or passive. So that's really disappointing and frustrating, and this is extremely annoying. They just ignore my questions and it makes me irritated at times. Sometimes I cancel the classes to punish such irresponsive students. Only the toppers consistently respond. And non-responsiveness is a common and crucial issue increasing higher education teachers' boredom and discontent. So similar almost, and this is, he said, this is anyway, I cannot see them. I need to hear from the learners. If they do not respond, why should I take the class? They do not want to learn, but I'm teaching. It looks forced and one way. Finding this is disappointing. So this is critical when we are teaching, but we really feel the students do not want to be taught. And obviously it is known to the most of the teachers that as language students are usually bored online through different research and findings. So teachers need to stay fully active in every class, since creative tasks or problem solving activities are often unsuccessful. Only a few students reply up to instructions. So since they are not working, teachers has to speak throughout the class, and it looks like he's working like a machine and no one is responding or no one is working. So you have to keep it alive through talking continuously. So I have to talk all through the period to show the class and make it go, which I would divide into teacher talk and learner activities in a face-to-face class. Now, I cannot ensure students' participation. It is tiresome. Junior school teachers suffer most from learners in activeness as they state. However, if the learners were responding effectively or most of them are active, the classes would never be boring. Neither the learners nor the parents take online learning seriously. So that's an issue, like less involvement and less engagement on the part of parents and the students. So one of the teachers said, it often looks like only my duty and learners have no responsibilities. Students in some classes do not unmute even after requesting several times. Sometimes teachers leave their meeting room. This is not boring, rather annoying. And I'm just upset with the profession since I started my teaching career online. So this is teachers' well-being and their satisfaction and professionalism. So everything is impacted by boredom and learners' irresponsiveness or less participation. So the third reason includes repeated and continuous classes, and thus administration issues. So the other common reason making teachers bored is repeated and ongoing classes, which is stressful. Such a class schedule spoils the teaching quality and teachers' motivation. So one of them said, when I feel bored and do not like to talk, I keep them some tasks and I do not feel about pursuing. They should be responsive. I need to tell and do the same thing every day, and it is just drowning to sit in the same place and do the same thing. Teachers complain about the increased eye problems because of looking non-stop at the screen and feeling isolated or worried since alone. New teachers are usually enthusiastic, but working at a stress is always demanding. And one of my students is teaching at college said, I cannot ignore the physical and psychological stresses in online teaching. Taking consecutive classes are exhausting. Sometimes I walk while teaching for back pain. The mental pressure involves planning so many lessons and making the most reluctant learners understand the content in a time constraint. Also, making the learners using languages challenging. This generates anxiety. So that's not limited to boredom only. Teachers' emotions are scattered with like anxiety, stress, annoyance, and boredom, and dissatisfaction with the profession and frustrations. So it should be addressed. And since we do not know how long we will continue with the hybrid mode or online mode. So higher education faculty mainly feel bored taking recurring classes and doing other administrative works, especially with the private university teachers. So they need to do so many things by themselves. So doing all on screens make the circumstances difficult and affects the class. So one of my students teaching at a private university said, boredom soars while working on a screen for long, and teachers often take the classes only for professional responsibilities. That's my job. I have to do it anyway. But no pleasure, no motive, or no objectives to attain through the class. So the reactions are often shown in the classes. Teachers should only concentrate on teaching and they need incentives to work better. So administrative authorities should consider this, that when teachers are working online and doing administrative works at the same time, they need some incentives to recompensate their additional works and this screen stress. So high school teachers enjoy online teaching when they have one or a few classes. They prepare well and make well-planned lessons, but it is detrimental to have many and consecutive classes. So one of the teachers stated, my student Sunday class is always good since I have only one class. Tomorrow I have 4 consecutive classes. I am already frustrated regarding this, and it is not only stressful but also uninteresting since these classes are not interactive enough. I do not always have my students responding to me. Often my security guard thinks I am a peculiar man, always talking over the phone or to myself. So he's living alone. So that's really weird. How do people think of me? Since I have been talking and talking, and suddenly it came to my mind. I have been taking classes, recording and practicing my presentations and doing all these things. So what my people think of me, what is she doing and what is she going to? So the final and the fourth reason of teachers' boredom is sitting arrangements and settings. So teachers' boredom has another contextual source, which is their sitting place and teaching room. The university teachers feel irritated about it, and me too. Our home sitting is already quite discouraging to teach or do office works. I need to tackle the household issues while attending my children and doorbells. Further, I cannot use different rooms for taking classes on different days of the week. And I was feeling like that, am I being a statue sitting over here in the same table, same room? And these views have been really boring to me. So doing the same thing in the same place, but we have options to change classrooms in the universities. So I have to teach in the same room and on the same table, which makes teaching dull and things look rosy. So teachers perceive learners' unresponsiveness and inattention at the lack of environmental support or settings issues. Definitely learners go through the similar experience. And there is a big contextual impact on students' interest and teachers' performances. It is quite difficult to get them focused in the class activities or discussions. They do have homely environment and they do have distractions too. So they're not being in the classroom, they're being at home and then they're doing classes. So definitely they will be distracted. So being in the same room every day is so monotonous, and I often forget where I am and look around. Most of the time, learners do not turn on the camera, which makes the teachers confused about their presence in the class. Settings have many effects on online teaching learning boredom. And one of the respondents said, I do not know if they are writing or reading. This is exhausting. I do not see the expected outcomes of all my effort. They need to bring school teachers to the class, which is often impossible. Being at home, they completely ignore teachers' command, and this doesn't look like homeschool even. So it's not being schooling at all, and students are not taking this serious schooling, as they believe this is an emergency solution, and they have some specific recommendation. And I asked about how you want to get it, because who knows how long you have to continue with this process. So first of all, they say parents should be more involved and engaged, and they need to guide their children. This is crucial to be pedagogically successful in online learning. So they can identify learners' individual needs and report the teachers, which would help teachers in replanning, teaching and receiving learner responses. A junior school teacher asserts very beautifully, parents are not aware of learners' skills and knowledge developed during this COVID-19 situation. They only care for exams and grades, so they want to get rid of these responsibilities, thinking it is enough to pay for school or gadgets. But it is the time when teachers' parents' collaboration is mostly required for learner development. And I liked it because this is the time. Otherwise, parents cannot be involved in our physical classrooms, but in online classroom, they can observe their children and their development and report it to teacher very easily. They need to move. So that's a very crucial point of development in online pedagogies. Secondly, they said about learner awareness and participation. Learners do not want to learn. Whatever I do to use internet and interactions, if they do not feel interested, nothing happens. If they were responsive, we would have been more successful. And they said about using problem solving and hands-on activities in the classroom to make it successful, which really coincide with the international research findings that already exist. So these using project-based experimental learning, teachers can support the community-driven educational programs to provide much needed place-based additional learning options for the students. Therefore, teaching through problem-based approaches can engage learners with emergent and non-academic topics of interest. It can promote real-life language use in and outside the classes, since learners show little aptitude for online classroom-based learning. So to make them problem solving and doing exercises and getting their own task done by themselves and reporting it in the online classes can engage them in the class. So that's important to engage the students. That can empower the teachers that they are doing enough or they are teaching efficiently. So the third recommendations that came from the teacher respondents is training the teacher. This is badly needed about technology and the theoretical underpinning of sociocultural learning in online platforms. because some factors, that significant factors determining lively and successful online teaching and learning should be known to the teachers. And the students repeatedly state the instructors are necessary expertise with widely available internet-based teaching tools that can reduce boredom, like teachers' boredom and students' boredom, such as video conferencing software. And besides, the teachers need to discover and utilize the ways to increase the interaction, sustaining students' interest and development is also important. And one of the research respondents state teachers with no training on technology enhanced language learning are unaware of how to use internet resources and other applications to make the class interactive. So they still stick to books, which it doesn't work online. So that's another reason of teacher boredom and student boredom at the same time. So definitely teachers boredom has a direct impact on students boredom. If teachers are not enthusiastic, motivated, and dynamic, then students definitely will lose interest in class, learning, or participation, or they will just devalue the necessity of learning online. And finally, they said about positive reinforcement, that teachers' contribution to their own reducing in their own boredom, because if they can rejuvenate or they can motivate the students to be active and participative in the classroom, so definitely their boredom will go up. And motivated students are better confident about learning online or self-efficacy, and experienced learners are more satisfied. So higher self-efficacy, satisfaction, and lower task value perceptions are associated with learners' active participation in online language classes. Since we are talking about learners' active participation in the class, that can reduce teachers' boredom, and lack of what is the reason of teachers' boredom. And scaring and positively reinforcing teachers can motivate online language learners, and teachers' appreciation and encouragement can raise learner motivation and cheerful mindsets. So far, we have been complaining about learners. Now, this is teachers' responsibility to raise their students' motivation. Parents need to perceive this as an opportunity to encourage learners' positive attitudes towards teaching as much as they can to ensure children's learning. So parental involvement is a most crucial issue in online learning, since students are home and under the supervision of parents, and they're physically connected to the parents, but not to the teacher. So in addition, this is an excellent opportunity for the teachers to raise parents' awareness about teachers' teaching learning approaches and strategies used in school. So usually parents often complain, I do not know what the teachers are doing and they're teaching, or my child is learning or not. So this is the appropriate time that those anxious parents can follow and observe and contribute in their children's learning development. So to conclude my research, I want to say the findings clearly shows Bangladeshi English teachers at all levels are bored with online learners' non-responsiveness, low attendance, distractions, passiveness, etc. Although class loads and additional administrative work pressures add to their boredom and increase their stress, the teachers are also aware of the adverse effects of this boredom, which bring barriers to successful education and development of both the teachers and students during this pandemic period. And they took it as an emergency learning solutions, and university faculties are really overburdened and thus strained with online teaching boredom. And the rural elementary teachers in my country also report about the apparent effects that we have reported on the research and on their pedagogical practices. So boredom has a long-lasting impact on teachers' pedagogical choices and practices, since teachers are dissatisfied and they're frustrated about their professional values. So hence the participants have recommendations based on their experiences and well-observed peer practices that we have reported, including increased parental involvement, learner participation, teacher training, positive reinforcement, etc. So they should be addressed, and we need to count as teacher educator. So these are the references that I used for my research, and that's all from me today. Thank you everyone for hearing me. If you have any questions, please forward these via the following emails. And thanks once again for your time.